Thanks for tuning in to Seven Figure Fitness Business. Now, today, the topic of conversation is going to be the 5 massive benefits online has over brick and mortar in fitness. Now, G, it was your idea to talk about this particular topic. So I wanted to ask, why exactly did we want to discuss this?
Well, I want to talk about this because I think, our lives really changed as soon as we got into online business. And I think there are a lot of things that you don't really think about when you get going in this industry. I mean, personal training in a big box gym, where both of us started, it's painful, right? There are certain aspects you're limited with how much you can scale that business. There's the pain of showing up to the physical location, and online you get to work from home. And the opportunities that being online has afforded for ourselves, our families, the impact that we can create on our clients. I just thought it was the perfect topic to discuss today.
Yeah, agreed. I know, Iggy, you had a lot that you wanted to talk about this particular conversation as well.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of us can relate to the grinds of being tied to a physical location. So for me, diving into the benefits of an online business is really, really exciting because there's some hidden benefits that a lot of people don't think about. A lot of people aren't even aware of because they haven't really experienced it. So I'm excited to dive into those things specifically just to open some people's eyes to how incredible of an opportunity it is.
Yeah. I've definitely experienced a much greater sense of freedom since we went online, but obviously all those points are going to be discussed when we get into this list. So I guess without any further ado, the first thing that we'd sort of come up with, which is extremely important, is that when you go online, there's a much lower barrier to entry. So, G, with this one, like what exactly are we talking about?
When you go online, a lot of the time when you've got a physical location, you might have to pay for the gym rent fee. You might have to, if you're a franchisee, you have to pay rent there. You have to, obviously, every single step of the way, there's going to be expenses associated with being in a physical location. Whereas as soon as you go online, you don't have to pay anything. It's about, acquiring clients. So, it's very easy. Rather than paying any money or investment, you can actually start an online business with no financial investment, just purely your time.
Yeah, I was speaking to a guy the other day, really nice guy, who was in a tough situation, and he was in the spot where his business was building slowly inside the gym, and he said that his rent had just doubled. And the reason why is because he'd kind of gone past that probation period. He hadn't grown fast enough, and of course that was crippling his ability to squeeze any profits whatsoever out of all the work he was putting into it. So it can be a really challenging thing, just the rent in and of itself.
Yeah. And then the other thing that kind of goes along with it is with a physical location, you also got to think about the logistics, not just for you, but also for your prospective client, right? They have to drive to a physical location. They have to figure out how it's going to fit into their schedule. And they have to figure out what it's going to take for you to actually even do business with them. Whereas with an online business, there's really no logistics involved for your prospective client, right? They don't have to figure out how they're going to meet with you to make this thing happen because it's convenient for them. And so the barrier for them to be able to do business with you is much lower as well, right? So that's like another side of it that people don't really consider when they're thinking about building an online business.
And it's, one of the few industries in the world where, you don't actually need much capital to start up. People can just jump in and, I think particularly organic marketing is absolutely fantastic. You can, post yourself on social media, give away free content, and people, will come to you and you can actually sell them into your programs. And, it's such a great opportunity for people who want to start a business because you often hear that most businesses fail within the first 2 years. But if you've got limited startup fee and you can just, effectively get clients for free, all of a sudden your risk is far, far lower.
Yeah, so a lot of people because I speak to people on the front end all the time who are interested in kind of what we do and how we help. And one of the most common questions is what all are the costs of running an online business? And, typically everyone listening to this knows that we're in favor predominantly of paid ads. But I think also there's a bit of a misconception about how much money you need to spend on paid ads. And the other thing is that, paid ads are seen as a straight up cost, whereas yes, they are a cost when you look at your profit and loss, but ultimately when you spend money on ads, you do that with the expectation that you'll be getting a certain return back. So I wanted to just ask, like both of you, I mean, when someone wants to go online, what are the costs? How much do they have to spend on ads? Are there other softwares that you guys frequently recommend? What are we looking at here, breaking it down a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I can dive into this. I think the first thing I want to address is just a mindset when it comes to spending money on ads,
Mhm.
because when ads is not just spending, it's not a cost, right? It's really more of an investment because there's a couple massive benefits that comes with investing in advertisement that goes beyond just the initial ROI that you get. You're building a digital asset, right? You're building a pool of people that you can get in touch with immediately, right? And you're doing that at a rapidly accelerated pace that organic can't even come close to. Even if you don't get an initial return on your investment, like within the first few weeks, you're still building a digital asset that you can leverage a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a year from now. Like you have an audience that you can build. So that I never consider like actual like running ads like as a hard cost. You're either investing in building an asset or you're investing in acquiring real measurable data that you can use to make massive improvements in your business, even if you don't get that initial return on the front. So think of it like an investment, have money set aside to invest into building those assets for your business. But the actual hard cost that you do need to consider is technology, like software, right? If you want to do it efficiently, you can get away with a Stone Age system where you use like spreadsheets, Google Docs, a Gmail, right? There's ways to do it without that initial hard cost.
I mean, that's
Just
how I
know,
started up, really. Like, in the start, when I first did my first online business, I just leveraged what I had in the gym and I literally just gave up my time. I called people for 15 minutes and just gave them programs from the gym and talked about nutrition. And that
yeah,
was my
you
online
can do
business.
that.
And, that's not
So
efficient, but, like it got the job done.
exactly. Like there's ways to do it where you don't have to actually inquire any costs. But if you want to, if you're doing it, you got to think of it like a legitimate business,
Mhm.
right? You don't go and start a gym trying to avoid any hard costs. Like it's just stupid. Like what's the point of even trying to start a business if you're avoiding any kind of upfront investment?
I think
So
as
what?
well, these costs are going to be a lot less because I mean, gym. I'm sure it varies around the world, but in Sydney, for example, where Andrew and I live, I mean, gym rental fees here could be like $300 a week, right? That's not uncommon whatsoever. Yeah, and if you look at it, I mean, if you've got say a payment processor like Stripe and anything else that's needed with that, maybe some sort of a booking system like a Calendly or an Acuity, you've got some sort of delivery thing for your program like a PT Distinction. I'm not sure, maybe like a Zapier so your softwares can talk together. I mean, all these things combined, you're probably looking at maybe like it wouldn't be any more than I'm guessing $100 to $200 a month, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so it's
with the
much
with the
cheaper.
initial with the initial softwares, with clients in our program, for the duration that they're working with us, we really eliminate 99% of what they're going to need to be spending
Yeah.
money on as far as software goes. And their only initial overhead is paying for a personal training app, which is PT Distinction. That's like $80 a month.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think about it, like if you got to pay $80 a month for rent to work with clients, like no gym on the planet will even try to compete with that. you know? So that's really the only hard cost that clients actually accumulate while they're working with us in the program. Outside of that, if they're, let's say they're going to start their own thing, they'll need a training software, a booking software. 9 out of 10 times they'll need some type of like Zapier to get things to communicate, and then anything else that they can think of to try and make what they're doing more efficient.
Yeah. And so in reality, like one of the biggest costs ultimately for an online business will be ad spend, but you've got to think of it like this. I mean, I know that, when G dashboards, typical results, it's anywhere between, roughly, correct me if I'm wrong here, G, but it's between 3 and 10. So if you spend $1, you're going to get somewhere between 3 and 10 back. And then basically you've got to think about how many people every single year are investing into, say, the stock market, right? Where they get absolutely blown away if they get like a 15% return. Now, if you can 3 to 10x your money, I mean, it's absolutely absurd to think that that's something that you're afraid of doing reliably, if so many people are investing into stocks where the return is so much smaller. I mean, basically, by investing into your business, there's much, much larger returns are available and much more quickly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the thing that, I think the profitability of online business is just insane compared to what's happening in the gym, because, the startup fees, the low barrier of entry feeds into the amount of money that you're making with profit. Again, you're paying rental fees for gyms, you're paying for equipment, whatever it is that you need. All of a sudden, all that's stripped out. And the money that you're actually able to pull from an online business, particularly at the start when you're sole trading and you've got no staff, is just insane.
Well, this is number 2 on our list, just to be clear as well. So number 2 is actually bigger profit margins. When there are less costs and it's easier to generate income and revenue, then the result of that is that you do have bigger profit margins. So this is definitely something that we should dive into further.
And the way I think about it, like when I first, I said this before, but when I first started my, online side of the business, I had about 5 clients, called them for 15 minutes, no investment in anything. It was just people, friends of friends, so no marketing fee. And the setup was purely leveraged off the gym. So when you think about it, you can, anyone can go away and do that and just start training people and calling them and giving up your time. And that's the ultimate, profit, because there's no expenses whatsoever.
Exactly. And it can get pretty, you can have like 100% profit margin if you're really going Stone Age and leveraging your time in the beginning. And that's the cool thing about it, is the fact that with a larger profit margin, this is going to kind of transition into one of the other benefits. But with the larger profit margin allows you to be more aggressive with what you do, right? You can afford to spend more on ads. You can afford to spend more on the front end. You can even afford to hire people faster because of the profit margins that you do have. And it allows you to get to the point where you can even start to scale a little bit more. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the profit margins with an online business is absolutely insane, right? And there's ways that you can leverage that cash to even fast track your growth.
Yeah, it's not uncommon as well for people that have been in the fitness space for some time. They might have been a PT operating out of a gym for 3 to 5 years, and they're lucky if they're doing $10,000 in revenue per month. And then realistically, we have a very, very implementable system that has a high likelihood of getting them anywhere between 10 and 50K a month at the end of a 6-month period. So I think it blows a lot of people's minds just how fast you can move. And, a lot of that comes down to the third point that we had, which is that when you go online, your marketplace is so much larger all of a sudden, because you're not just marketing to your local geographical location, right?
It's infinite. It's crazy what you can, the amount of how big of a market it is really eliminates competition. In the online space, especially with the health, with a market like the fitness industry, there is absolutely no competition. We can target the same people, and there'd be millions of people that fit into that audience. Millions of people that fit into that audience. Even if I really wanted to, there's no way I can service all those people. How big of an infrastructure we would need to service all those people would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that for one of the questions I get asked a lot is, about the course is, why do you guys share everything you know? If, you're making as much money as you are, aren't you worried that people are going to copy you? And the answer is no.
No.
The world's so big, people could, they're going to be, fakers. They're going to be copiers out there who steal everything that we've got because we're successful. That's normal. People do that. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter. To make $1 million, we need 500 clients. 500 clients, that's it, out of the world. So, that could happen
out of billions of people who are in the industry. And there's millions entering the marketplace every day, right? Millions of people are finding themselves 10 to 50 to 100 pounds overweight, around the world every day. So even if you wanted to dominate, there's really no way no way you could possibly own 100% of the market share.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been going hard now for 4 years inside the Australian marketplace, which is, we're operating out of less than 30 million as the total population of this country. Now, if you move over to North America and you wanted to go for the US or the US and Canada, I mean, you're talking about 12 times that amount of people, roughly, roughly about 360 million. I mean, I don't think people really understand the scale of those kind of numbers, and
it's ridiculous.
How many people in Western countries, like usually wealthier countries, with that seems to come higher obesity rates and poorer health in a lot of sense related to overweight. So the number of people that are looking for help in this industry is only increasing. It isn't getting smaller.
Yeah, it's getting worse. And so more people need to have a business that allows them to have that kind of impact. Like even today, I had somebody reach out to me personally from my network who had found themselves like 30 pounds overweight, right? And wanted to get help, right? I sent him over to our team. He booked in today, and he might actually have a call with one of our reps in like an hour and a half. Right. But having that ability to, like, there are people who are entering your market every single day that need help. And it's just crazy to think that some people can be so small minded and think like there's so much competition. There's really no competition. Right. With millions of people out there, to have a 7-figure business, the fact that you only need like 500 to like 800, maybe even like 900 clients, depending on how you're pricing your packages, is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. That's all you need to maintain. And you can do that easily if you're willing to put in the work to actually build it.
Just to the point as well, I mean, we were making earlier about, kind of your marketplace not really running out. That really isn't the case when it comes to working out of a local gym or location. Because when I started at the gym that I worked at as a PT for 10 years, it was the only gym inside a 10K radius. And by the time that period of time had finished, because of the industry these days, these wealthy people are getting all these franchisees to open up gyms, and I'm sure the franchisees themselves, they're not earning a lot of money. But by the time I had finished at that gym, there was probably about 10 gyms inside that local area. And so what that does is it's slowly bleeding at your hip pocket, because half the members disappear and go to other gyms, which means some of your clients do. So it became a real concern. And when you go online, you don't experience that sort of issue. Add to that the fact that with COVID this year, or the last 2 years really, what's happened to that is that certain areas, gyms, countries, towns, cities, they've just been shut down. And so when that's happened, those people are unable to help their members and they've been forced to go online. Say if you're in, California, and let's say all of California gets shut down, you can just target all the other states and there's no concern there. So unless the entire USA or entire Australia got shut down in one go, you've leveraged yourself against risk so much better, because when one marketplace or local area is affected, you can just go elsewhere.
Yeah. And that's going to kind of tie into some of the other points as well. But having the bigger market does give you way more stability in your projections, way more stability in like what you can expect to be doing and how you can grow. And the nice thing about it is being online allows you to, like, you can create your own niche. You can think about who you want to work with, what interests you, those common things, and you'll be surprised to find there are millions of people who share the same kind of interest that you have. Right. And you can build a business centered around your personal passions and tie that into your fitness and how you want to serve people. And now all of a sudden you just created a new market for yourself that you can fish from endlessly.
Well, that's really what happened with us at the start. Like, the reason that we got into online business was really a big part of was my story, having hypothyroidism and, helping women who have thyroid problems and then wanting to create more impact and going online and helping more and more people. And it was just a very seamless and organic process about just purely about wanting to help people who'd gone through a similar process to myself. And, a lot of us are super, super passionate about a particular topic, just as, I am about hypothyroidism. And in that situation, you get to create more impact with the people that you love helping.
Yeah. I remember in the early days, we had a lot of people from like country towns in Australia. Like, they were very isolated geographically, and they loved the fact the fact that there was this community that they felt a part of. And I know that you were working in one of the biggest gyms in our local area, AG, and ultimately, if you put out a thyroid program for women inside that gym, I doubt that you could have put together more than 20 members who were interested, because there wouldn't have been enough of them. It does allow you to really niche down further and to find your own tribe and speak to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, let's put this in perspective as to, how many, people there are to work with hypothyroidism. We've been doing hypothyroid body transformation for 3.5 years. And in that time, in the last year, we've been spending at least 30 grand a week on ads, and we still haven't saturated that market. Sure, the costs are going up, which I want to talk about a little bit later as we get through this list. But at the same time, like, the competition is so low. The fact that we can do that for such a long period of time is just, it really, really is so, so strong. And, particularly, if you're living in a smaller area, you're getting more competition, you're feeling like things are getting tighter, you do have the ability to be able to pivot, go online, and go into a world where there is no competition anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing I love about it. And then, like, that transitions to, like, the next one that we have, which is way more scalable.
Yeah.
Right. With the bigger market, with the lower barrier of entry and a higher profit margin and a bigger market, gives you all the typical challenges that you'd have to face with the brick and mortar that prevent you from scaling. Typically with the brick and mortar, if you want to scale, i.e. open up a new gym, have multiple locations, now you've essentially just tripled your overhead.
Yeah.
Right. Just from wanting to expand, you've tripled your overhead. Whereas with online, you can scale and not necessarily increase your overhead.
Yep.
And that's just wild.
It's easy to hire new staff when you're online, because you can find quality staff all over the country that you're targeting. Whereas if you're, say, operating as a personal trainer out of a gym, you have to pay rent and wages for every single new person that you bring on, right? It really does make a big difference. You don't have to do that online. You can look for key staff placed, geographically, but make hiring the right person the key consideration rather than where they happen to live. So it really does make it easier for you.
And, you've got so much leverage, because you don't have to hire people from your own country to do, any job. And, one of the things that we all leverage off, a lot is offshore VAs. And, particularly the Philippines are known very, have a very, very high level and standard of virtual assistants. And, the wage that we pay them is sometimes, 20% of what we pay people in Australia or in the United States, for example. And
because the cost of living is higher for Western countries, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, in a third world country, their cost of living isn't nowhere close to as high. Therefore, how much you need to pay them and how well, like, it's perceived, right? Because their cost of living isn't as high and our conversions typically favor us. We pay somebody like $10 an hour. That's a lot of money because, one, the conversion favors them when we're converting like US dollar or AUD to Filipino currencies or something like that, favors them significantly. And now all of a sudden they're making more than what the top earners would make locally.
Yeah. And it's seen as a respected profession inside that country, which is amazing as well. So it's providing an income that hopefully translates extremely well into their local currency. And also, they're respected by their friends and family for what they do, which is an amazing feeling to be able to provide those kind of jobs for people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
AP, both you and I, we have a lot of friends who own gyms, have facilities. And one thing that I see time and time again is they're opening a new gym. It's this giant, massive event, this huge launch. All their ducks need to be in a line. There's a huge amount of work. They've planned it out for like pretty much the best part of 6 months, a year till this new facility opens, right? Mm-hmm. And in online, we've got, how many, I'm trying to think how many members we've actually had in total. But, effectively, we've never, ever had to have this big, giant launch, this brand new facility, bringing on an entire new staff, anything like that, because everyone goes through the exact same system.
It's crazy. Even the fact that you mentioned that, like, with the online, how crazy it is in terms of like scalability. You can set up a new program and launch it in less than a week.
You can do it in a day. It's like, like for
It's
us, like
crazy.
we the big market we've moved into recently is fit over 50. And realistically, we could have pivoted and done that in a day. We took a little bit more time because we wanted everything to be, really smooth and cool. And, for it to be of a really high quality. But literally, we could have run an ad that said fit over 50, drawn up a logo and sent people through that funnel. Because at the end of the day, fit over 50 for us is a storefront that takes people back to the 4% club, which is just our weight loss program. So it's like, we have that brand that pushes people back into our core program, which is the same no matter what niche people come from.
Exactly. So that gives you, that ties into number 5, which was just how quickly you can pivot with an online business. Like with the brick and mortar, if you can't, if the competition starts killing your margins, it starts killing your sales, you can't just pack up and move to to a better market. You can't. You can, but it's going to cost you to do that.
It's another
right. Not only is it going to cost you sales, right? What are you going to do with your current members? Right? They can't pack up and move with you.
There's all these like earthquakes, a life-changing event, an earthquake, your gym closes. That happens online and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to go work in the UK now. Yeah, I'm going to go work in New Zealand. And you just keep on changing your marketplace until you're there. And it's a non-event. Yeah. You're just following ROI and making more money because you choose a location based on, where you want to work with, where makes you the most money.
Exactly. And it's just second to none how quickly you can pivot with an online business. It is absolutely ridiculous. Whereas like you truly are in control of your destiny.
Yeah.
Right. If we're seeing better profit margins in a different country, we can work with people in a completely different country and not be affected. Well, right. We don't need to go through all this legal process. We don't need to find real estate. We don't need to rent venues. We don't need to figure out all these things. It's just changing the location in the ad and marketing to that country.
Yeah. And another reason I really wanted to talk about this is because of what's, transpired with us in online business over the last sort of like 6 months. We've been working predominantly with thyroid, with menopause, and slowly when you spend as much money as we do, the profit margins kind of, you lose profit margins. And we're like, well, how are we going to get the most out of this? And the answer was to release our Fit Over 50 brand. And since we've done that, our lead cost is what, our cost per booking is about a third of what we're currently paying for thyroid and menopause. And we have had that ability to pivot very, very quickly and get things back on track very, very fast, because in business, you're always going to go in up and down cycles. But, your ability to pivot is going to what dictates how less that actually impacts you. Now, the other thing that's happened is like geography. In geography, we're finding we're getting a 10-to-1 return in the UK at the moment. And what we've done there is, most of our business is set up in Australia, but all we do is we find the most profitable thing and we reallocate staff. So we send a coach over to work in the UK. We send more salespeople over to work over in the UK. All of a sudden, right, we're just following that, the return on investment. We're still helping the exact same people. It's just about where they are. Yeah. And, I've just got to say that, this is something that's so critical when new people come into the program as well. Because often, people will pick a really, a niche that's broader and they'll find it hard to market to, and they'll find that they're not getting, a good return on investment for, the advertising. And what we do with people is we tell them, hey, it's time for a rebrand. Let's think about what you're actually doing so you can focus on a new market, so you can focus on a new brand, which often only takes people a few days to get up and running. And all of a sudden they fix their problem and they're making money.
I mean, we had clients rebrand in like a day and start making money like 2 days later. It's like, where can you make that quick of a change in direction, right? No other industry will allow you to do that. Like, I can't just decide, what, this brand isn't working. Let me just change the storefront. And it's not any extra cost doing that. It's a matter of changing your profile, changing your name, and setting up a new storefront. And now all of a sudden you have a completely new brand that you can run with.
Yeah, that's been the amazing thing to see is like, if you were a gym owner and you had to pack up or shut down and start everything again, every element of the business has to change. Whereas the way that you've done it, G, with Fit Over 50 and other storefronts we've had in the past is effectively you've kind of limited the changes that need to be made out of the three major departments being, marketing, sales, and delivery or fulfillment. You've really limited it very closely to the marketing end so that we're getting new landing pages done. There's ways that you're targeting that niche, but really it doesn't affect sales much at all because we've got a very flexible system there. And the fulfillment, really that stays entirely the same as well. So you've found a very clever way of managing the changes so that between you and our amazing CEO, Cherie, making some small changes, in terms of administrative stuff, it's super easy to make this change and have a significant impact on an entirely new market.
Yeah, well, we've set it up, like the way I think about it is, we've now set the business up with McDonald's type systems for creating new brands. Yeah. We've just hired our new social media manager. Her name's Jamie. And her role is going to effectively be to create new brands. So, at the moment, what we've got menopause, we've got thyroid, we've got Fit Over 50, then we're going to go with Fit Over 40, prenatal, postnatal, PCOS, diabetes, any single brand that we could possibly want is going to be in there. And all of a sudden, we're then just going, all right, which brand is doing the best? Which is the most popular? Which do people like? Where are we helping the most people? Where are we making the most money? And we get to pick and choose. And then you put that over the fact that we're working over in the UK, we're working in Australia, we could go into the US, we've got New Zealand. And you literally get to point a pin at the best location and profitable place in the world for you to make money.
Exactly. It's you essentially create your own cash printing machine. That's like the best way I can really put it. Like you create a cash printing machine where it's like, okay, well, how much do we want to make? And you just print in cash. These are all assets that you can take anywhere in the world with you. They're timeless. And because of the nature of the business, you don't have to do everything in it, right? Once you have your team, you have your systems in place, and you have everything as far as the back end and the infrastructure set up, it becomes a very, very powerful tool and very, very powerful asset for your life that gives you, the freedom, the flexibility, and just the independence that you need to be able to do things that you really love.
Not to mention, this gives you personal locational freedom. Let's just say you go, obviously with coaching, there are certain hours, like if you're working in Australia, it's good to be in Australia if you've got mostly Australian clients because you can probably service them better. But let's just say you want to move to the UK. And you go, okay, well, I'm just going to take on more UK clients. Fantastic. Let's say you want to move to the US, go live the life of your dreams, traveling, working, and, working with the people that you want to, and having true, genuine locational freedom.
Yeah. This was always one of my biggest pain points as a personal trainer, doing it for as long as I did. You could never go on an extended holiday because if you did, you ran the risk of losing clients. Really, if you pushed it more than about a month, having someone else look after them, chances are you might start to lose people. So, there's a real amazing sense of freedom that comes with just being able to go on, if you wanted to, you could go on a 6-month, you could go on a year, you could go on as much as you want, as long as you can operate your business. And there's no need to get up and start doing 4:45, sessions in the morning. So you really do have a genuine ability to get freedom in all three areas, which is, financial, time, because you have much more control over when and where you want to work, and then location as well. And that's been the biggest thing that I've found so enjoyable about this process.
Yeah. One thing I love to see also with so many, of our members is they actually get their husband, wives, partners involved to actually help them run the business, which you've effectively, created a job for your partner with very little risk, where they can also have a huge impact and you guys can live that life together, right?
I was just thinking like how my own situation right now, we just bought a house across the country. Being able to just pack up, buy a house where it just made the most sense and not have any change in revenue, income, anything like that. Not have to think about the typical logistical battles that people have to go through when they're going to move. What are they going to be doing for work? How much money are they going to be making? It, depending on the location, or they have to take a pay cut. All these things is just like, oh, we found a great deal. we're eventually going to turn this into a rental property. All right, let's buy it, pack up and move.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about that. It's just insane what you can do, and the kind of leverage that it truly gives you.
But looking back at my life, perhaps one of the very best years of my life was the year that AP and I decided to go traveling. And we would literally just, we would decide where we were going to go a week before we went there. It started with us going, all right, we're going to go to Thailand. Oh, let's go to Vietnam. Let's go to Bali. And, then we ended up in Cambodia for like 10 weeks, locking down, just working our asses off in a 5-star hotel. And, like that sort of spontaneity is like one of the reasons why I love living life, being able to make decisions that impact my happiness and be able to do things that I love doing in combination with working, making money. Right. And then, we even ended up like we went over to Europe. We spent time in Russia for the World Cup. And all while we were like, having fun while at the same time progressing so massively in our business, creating our own empire.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like there's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it. And it's funny enough, I still get people today who are like, when are you going to get a real job? Like never. I don't want a real job because most people associate having a real job with working for a company and being tied to a specific location, quote unquote, settling down. I'm like, I don't have a real job because I can do whatever I want, make my own schedule, travel whenever I want. Like it's really not a real job.
Can you imagine the thought of having a boss where you had to ask them if you could have a holiday? Like that's so foreign to me now. The thought of that is just, it's just like, it's painful to think that, there's huge opportunity out there for so many people to be able to run their own shop, to be able to run their own business and, really have that freedom away from being locked down to a job where someone's telling you what to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
We've all kind of, experienced this because there's controllable and uncontrollable variables. And unfortunately right now with COVID, we are being controlled to an extent to being able to travel internationally, but it doesn't mean that we can't take advantage of lots of travel opportunities and freedom inside our own countries. And, definitely as soon as COVID goes away, I know for a fact that the three of us are going to be meeting up on a very regular basis. And, who knows, we could do Hawaii, we could do Asia, we could do US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. There's really no limit to where
I'm busting a trip out to Sydney to see you guys.
Come and ride some kangaroos down the street, mate. Yeah. But yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say earlier is, I'm amazed and really excited about how many people get on a sales call with me wanting to make changes to their life and their business and feeling stuck. And one of the things that's just so amazing is when, their goal, be it men or women, is that they want to retire their partner from some shitty job that they hate as well, right? So what that looks like is basically earning enough income that they have freedom financially. And then once they do that, it might be that they want to bring their partner into the business or at least retire them. It might be that, a mum or a dad wants to be able to spend more time with their family. And all these things are so much more realistic and achievable when it comes to an online business. And it's just an amazing journey to go on. And I really couldn't be more grateful personally for anything that I've had in my life than what's happened in the last 3.5 years. Yeah. And I think if we couldn't possibly have achieved anywhere near what we've done, not even half of it, if we'd stayed locked in a brick and mortar location.
Yeah, because for me, just kind of like what you mentioned, there's no greater gift that my online business has given me than the freedom to give my soon-to-be wife, my vanilla queen, the freedom and flexibility to really pursue her passions, right? To where if something doesn't work out, she's not worried. She doesn't have to worry about it. It's like, babe, you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
We don't even have to, it doesn't have to make us any money. Like just be happy with whatever you're doing. Right? And being able to say that and really mean it, you can't do that easily with anything else. It's like really like, what's your passion? What do you want to do? What makes you happy? Like, go ahead and do it. Like, you don't have to work a regular job.
Yep. It's huge.
You know, for me personally, that's like been like the greatest gift having an online business has given me and allowed me to give to the one that really matters to me.
Yep. Well, I mean, Hannah and I plan on having kids at some stage, and when we do, I mean, I want her to have the freedom to decide whether she wants to return to work or whether she wants to stay home, and that's the sort of choice that income, geographical freedom, and a successful business can afford. So I think all of these things are incredibly life changing, not just for yourself, but to back to your comment earlier, Andrew, about people say, why do we do this? I know one of the biggest things for me is that the fulfillment that I used to feel helping people change their lives in terms of health, it actually isn't as large as the fulfillment that I feel personally helping people change their business and the life of their family. That for me is just such an amazing feeling. So every time we have a client that's made a $2,000 or $3,000 sale, or they've had a 10, 20, 30K month, like I'm absolutely buzzing for them. It's just such an incredible feeling. I'm sure you guys agree.
Absolutely. There's nothing like it. I still get a ton of pleasure from seeing this business that I've created still changing people's lives, and people are getting in shape. People are like being transformed. I still get a ton of fulfillment from that. But my fulfillment and satisfaction from that comes from the fact that it's like, man, like this is its own living thing that I don't have to do anything for it. It's like, it's still doing what it was created to do. Yeah. Right. And now I get to see other people essentially learn how to create it and get the same kind of impact and fulfillment from it. Right. Not only do they get to change people's lives, but they also get to see their families' lives being changed as a result of it. And it's like the most incredible feeling in the world.
Absolutely. You guys have seen the movie 21, right? Yes. The Blackjack movie. And like they're playing the MGMT music in the background. I think it's kids. Yeah. And all of a sudden they figure out how to card count and they realize they're making all this money. And everyone's just dancing around, smiling, partying, having a great old time. Well, that's how I feel like, I think as a business owner, when you first get things working, that's how you feel, right? You start getting that moment. And I sometimes imagine that song in my head when things are going really well. And we get to do that every single day with our clients. We get to go on their journey of, getting started to when they realize they can actually make money and, their dreams are actually becoming a reality.
Yeah. And it's not easy, like being with an online business, there's some massive benefits, right? But there are some challenges that comes with it as well. But the benefits of what is possible far outweigh any challenges that you have to go through. It is an emotional roller coaster sometimes, especially when clients are starting for the very first time and have never done anything like this in their entire life. There's a lot of emotions that goes through it, but those who are willing to persevere, those who are willing to be persistent, it's not a matter of like if you can make it work or be successful in it. It's just a matter of when. Yeah. Might take you a little bit longer. You might be a slower starter. You might hit the ground running really fast and then things stall a little bit. But those who are willing to persevere, it's truly a matter of when, not a matter of if you can be successful. Yeah. Right. And that's the thing I love about it. It's like once you develop the skills that you need, success is virtually guaranteed. Yeah. Because it's such a big market. There's no competition in it. And it's just a matter of developing the skills to actually make it sustainable.
Yeah. If all things are equal, usually you're going to come out well and truly in front online. And I would say that the only caveat would be that there are still some people that are totally unsuitable to be a business owner. And that's okay. If you're not the entrepreneurial type, if you're not the type of person that likes to be in charge, then it's probably not for you. So then just go and find a happy, secure job as an employee. But if you're sort of got those aspirations of having genuine freedom, then I think online is certainly going to be well worth a look, especially if you're operating in the fitness industry already.
Yeah, you need to be an entrepreneur, true and true. That entrepreneurship needs to run in your blood. Like if you're not a true entrepreneur, the difficulty you have to go through and the challenges you have to go through to build a successful business, that within itself will weed you out. Yeah. Don't misunderstand what we're saying in terms of like all the upside. If you are not an entrepreneur, true to your core, it's not happening.
Yeah.
So that is a caveat. Like you have to be a legitimate entrepreneur And you have to have the ambition and the desire. And if you do have that, right, I just want to kind of preface what I said before. If you do have those traits, it is a matter of when, not if, you'll be successful with it.
I think everyone, like most people, have some form of entrepreneurial spirit inside of them. It's finding that and being able to harness that and have a positive mindset towards it, because business owners can be emotional, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that you can work on yourself in terms of being the best possible business owner that you can be.
Yeah. I love the fact that you have to, having a business, especially an online business, you have to be disciplined, right? You need a level of character and a level of discipline to really be successful with it. And if you're not willing to work on that and develop those skills, it's not going to happen the way that you want it to.
Yeah, 100%. So guys, we have gone through quite a few very interesting topics today. But I mean, for anyone who is stuck in a location and really kind of has been interested or intrigued about the idea of going online, hopefully this kind of gave you a bit of a shove off the cliff today, and you're gonna actually take some action on looking into very seriously an online business. But was there anything else you guys wanted to add just before we finish up?
I think we did a pretty good job of putting out a sales pitch to anyone who's currently not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested, go to www.systems-by-design.com and book a business audit.
Yeah, and today let's
hook you up.
Today we're using the three of us as the testimonials. We don't need other testimonials today. We're all kind of the living, breathing examples of online and what you can do. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.